Hey everyone, this is Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology. Today we are going to continue taking a look at Pluto in the sign of Capricorn, a little review before Pluto leaves and does not come back. So we only have a couple of months left of Pluto in the sign of Capricorn. Yesterday I took a look at 5 things that Pluto won't let us forget. Today I want to talk about 5 things that we can now leave behind and kind of just flip the jewel really in the opposite direction that we did yesterday. There are certain lessons that we've taken from this long journey of Pluto through the sign of Capricorn that, yesterday's video was sort of like, let's never forget these lessons, these deep, sometimes hard Capricornian lessons. On the other hand, there are some things that we may now be able to truly leave behind, things that we have permission to leave behind because we've done the work, we've worked the field of this philosophical planetary school long enough that we've gained some insight, and there are certain things that might be ready to just be set down. So we're going to look at that today. Before we get into it, don't forget to like and subscribe. We're trying to get to 70,000 subscribers on this channel. We have almost doubled our monthly subscriber average. So what we notice is that a lot of people watch but don't subscribe. It is free to subscribe, and when you do, it really helps our channel, our community, and our business to grow. So if you have a second, please do that. We're going to see if we can get to 70,000 by the fall equinox. We're at like 68.2 or something, so it might take us maybe a little bit longer, but hey, this is amazing. So thank you everybody who's already subscribed. It really does help us. You can find transcripts of any of these daily talks on my website, nightlightastrology.com, and my year 1 program, Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic, begins on November 16th, and enrollment is now open. Our pre-registration sale runs from this week through October 15th. When you go to the first year course and you scroll down, you can learn all about it. Next week, I will have an informational video tagged on at the end of every video so you can really get to know the program a lot more in depth. But for now, you can check it out on the page, everything that it includes. There's 30 classes on the year. There's tutoring sessions. There's guest teachers. Outside of those 30 classes, there are breakout study sessions. We have a ton of bonus material. It's a really comprehensive course in ancient astrology. At the bottom, you will find the early bird payments that are available only until October 15th. One early bird payment saves you several $100s. There's an early bird installment plan that saves you off from the normal tuition plan. And then we do have tuition assistance available, which is need-based tuition for people who are on a tight budget. We want to make sure that no one's priced out of studying a sacred science. And so we do have tuition assistance available where you can apply at the level that works for you on a monthly basis for your tuition. And so check those things out. The other thing is, if you are brand new and you're thinking, gosh, am I ready for this? Try the Astrology for Beginners course. We designed this course as a stepping stone into our first year course for people who are absolutely brand new. This will set you up for the year 1 course if you are brand spanking new to astrology. So you can check that one out, and you could start there. And then by November, you would certainly be ready. This is about 8 hours worth of content in this class that will set you up for the year 1 program. So any questions you have, email us, info@nightlightastrology.com. And again, there'll be a more comprehensive video tagged on to the end of every video starting next week, really giving you a breakdown of what the program includes. And that sale goes on until October 15th. So, all right, on that note, don't forget, September's webinar is also coming up. I'm doing a talk on Venus's 12 love languages. That talk is happening on September 19th. You can find that under the live talks page. So let's put up the real-time clock and take a look. Now, Pluto is in the sign of Capricorn, as you guys can see, and my Epic pen has disappeared. Here we go. Epic pen, there you are. All right, so here's Pluto, the very last, and you know what? Now, yeah, it's not going to work now. Okay, well, whatever. You can see Pluto is there in Capricorn in the 4th whole sign house of this real-time clock. And the point that I want to make is that we have just a little bit of time. If we take this forward to November, it is around November 19th into the 20th that Pluto changes signs. It actually is the 19th, I believe. So we have about 2 months left. 2 months. Now, if we track this back in time, how long has Pluto been in the sign of Capricorn? A long time. Look, this is all the way back to 2007, 2008. Sorry, January 2008. So January of 2008 to 2024, that is a long ass time. Excuse my language, but like, wow, right? A long time for Pluto to be in Capricorn. Yesterday, I talked about 5 things Pluto and Capricorn won't let us forget. Today, I want to talk about 5 things we may be ready to forget. And I do this for one specific reason. Because signs and planets in signs, especially over long periods of time, Jupiter in Gemini for a year, for example, or Mars going to be in Cancer 6 out of the next 8 months, they are like archetypal schools. When I was in my undergrad, I studied philosophy. Do you know what I wish I would have known? I wish I would have known that all of these different philosophical schools are in and of themselves archetypal, that there has been a way of thinking about existentialism, Buddhism, Christianity in the religious sphere, or there's been ways of thinking about, hedonism or nihilism or any of the isms, uh, democracy, socialism, monarchy, all of the different governmental systems are in and of themselves expressing archetypes. That doesn't mean that there isn't a best archetype or system or structure for a given person or a given time or a given social moment, right? It doesn't mean that I'm not trying to say everything's relative and there's no truth. But what I am trying to say is that ideas are archetypal, and ideas serve in the evolution of the eternal soul in ways that are really magical. They change, they shift. The philosophy we embrace at 20 years old is different than the one we embrace at 40 years old. It doesn't make one right and one wrong. We tend to think, well, when I was young, I was dumb, and now I really know the truth, or something like that, when we progress and shift in our philosophical understanding or our religious priorities or something like that, our values. They shift and change, but we don't recognize that what's really shifting and changing is just as much a part of the fabric of reality. They're like weather fronts that are moving through us. So what I really love about Pluto and Capricorn is that we've gathered all of these Plutonian, Capricornian lessons and insights. And yesterday was all about celebrating some of those and picking some of the most, I guess, textbook, first, second line in your textbook kinds of things that Pluto and Capricorn has taught us. And hopefully some that it may be articulated in a way we haven't thought about before. But today, what I want to do is, when you're done, like my experience of being done with graduate school, I did 2 graduate degrees. And in both cases, when I was done with school, man, did it feel good to be done. It was like, those were valuable lessons. Those were valuable experiences. And I'm so glad I don't have to write that essay anymore. I'm so glad I don't have to sit in a writer's workshop and listen to all mediocre writers criticizing each other, including myself. It's like, you're so done with it. And there's a way in which right now it's like we've gotten our little diploma from Pluto and Capricorn University. And we are also probably really done and glad we don't have to go back to certain things about that university. So here, in no particular order, are the 5 things we can now leave behind us from Pluto and Capricorn University. Number 1, duty and obligation that doesn't feed the soul. One of the things that can happen throughout Pluto's stay in Capricorn is we can examine the deep, unconscious level at which we are bound through feelings of duty and obligation to do things that on some level, on paper, or in terms of societal or familial expectations, they look like the things you ought to be doing. This is where your duties ought to lie. This is what your obligations should look like. And the should is really important. Because Capricorn works with a sense of, it doesn't really matter how you feel about this, you should do it. Doesn't matter how you feel about it, you should meditate, and there are good things like that, where it's like, doesn't matter how you feel, you should take care of yourself today. And that sense of adult, mature responsibility, obligation, and duty to things that we don't always want to do, but that truly we take care of ourselves if we do them. We grow and we develop things if we do them. Capricorn, we can thank for that kind of philosophy. On the other hand, one of the things that comes up while Pluto is in Capricorn is that there are lots of duties and obligations we fill our life with, just as cluttered as like a mess in a room in your house. And we fill our lives with duties and obligations that don't feed the soul. You see, if we're not working and chopping wood and carrying water for things that matter to us, It doesn't mean that they have to be the world's most selfish things. But if there's not some sense of being invested on the level of heart and soul in what it is that we're sacrificing and working for, and the duties and obligations that we take up, if we're not chipping off little pieces of our heart in pouring it into what we're doing, that's not feeding the soul. Then those duties and obligations are crosses that we should set down, that we should at some point say, you know what? I'm not going to carry this. Doesn't mean that there will always be a sense with Capricorn that this isn't exactly fun. I don't love doing this. I don't even necessarily want to do it. But you know the difference when it comes to whether your duties or obligations are right. They're aligned somehow. And the point is that one lesson that we've probably gathered from Pluto's stay in Capricorn that we can set down now is that tendency to work hard and pick up duties and obligations all over the place that are not connected in any way to our heart and soul. That's number one. Number two, hard work on things that don't yield heart returns. What I mean by that is one of the most amazing things about the earthy sign of Capricorn is that if you work hard, you will build things. You'll build things that last. You'll become masterful. Pluto's stay in Capricorn, that whole stay in the ninth house coincided with me starting, developing, growing my astrology career, business, client practice, tons of practical experience and the development of a relative degree of mastery, not compared to many people, but for me personally, measuring against nobody else but myself, I learned and grew tremendously, had so many client experiences, learned so much, taught a lot of astrology, and am much, much better at astrology than when I started. But the difference is that astrology feeds my soul. And there have been things, and I won't go into them personally, and I'm sure there have been for all of you too, where I have also poured a lot of hard work into things that didn't feed and have returns that actually fed my soul. By that, I don't mean that they give you a lot of money or a lot of fame, or I mean, they could, but that's really not the point. The point is that they feed an inner sense of satisfaction. This feels good. This is really touching my heart and soul. This gets into my sweet spot. You know what I mean? So hard work on things that don't reward just externally, they also reward internally. I feel like I've grown as a person. My heart has expanded. My mind has expanded. My friendships or relationships have grown because of the work that I've done. You want to be imagining that the end of a long transit in Capricorn is like that image of an old couple sitting on the porch, and they are rocking in their chairs and drinking lemonade at sunset. There's that feeling of contentment, of satisfaction, of looking out across the landscape of your work over a long period of time and saying, it is good. It's like, that sort of gospel, like, it is well with my soul, And if you don't have that, it's not worth it. And Pluto in Capricorn has probably taught us that on some level, because Pluto in Capricorn can help us differentiate between hard work that yields heart returns and hard work that yields the kind of returns that don't last, that don't really deeply satisfy. Number three, a sense of not being good enough driving our actions and choices. You see, the other thing is that there's a way in which Pluto and Capricorn can be driven to succeed and build things, empires, so to speak, rooted in the feeling that if I do this, I will be valid or worthy or beautiful. So it starts with a lack of self-worth, and it ends in, look at what I built. Look at how great I am because I did this or that. It's not that we shouldn't take pride in our accomplishments. It's that we want a big part of the return for that hard work to be the cultivation of an inner sense of worth that is humble. And, if it is frequently, if what's driving us is the feeling that I'm not enough and I need to be better. I'm not good enough. And so I'm going to work really hard and achieve this or that result, put it in my trophy case, and that trophy will prove that I'm good enough. That's the same thing as hard work not yielding heart returns. We're not getting something of eternal value from the work. And that's the beautiful thing about Capricorn, is it's not just scaling a mountain for the sake of getting a trophy. It's scaling a mountain so that we understand that just like at the top of the mountain, we can reach up and touch that which is eternal, that by climbing a mountain, we touch that which is eternal within ourselves. That's the paradigm, right? And if all of our work hasn't been getting us in touch with that, and it's only been, I'm not good enough, and so I have to bust my butt trying to get X, Y, or Z, well, we're ready to set that behind us. That's it. Let that go now. Number 4, feeling responsible for our history or family. Remember that polar opposite tension between Capricorn and Cancer? It's a big, like, first of all, I want to be really careful here, because remember what I said earlier when I said that signs are like paradigms, and a sign contains like a whole world of philosophical ideas. So one of the ideas present across the Cancer Capricorn axis is that you carry a burden and it comes from your childhood. This is so popular that it constitutes a huge amount of our modern therapeutic paradigms. You go to therapy, you look at your childhood, you figure out how that conditioning and various traumas and the parenting style and the deficiencies or the strengths or weaknesses of your parents and so forth, your history has made you who you are. And then you do the work of healing or of transforming or of even doing some kind of work on the family karma. You become an agent of change for the entire family constellation. This is all real. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's not real. It's all real. However, it's also just a paradigm. There have been many psychologists, and one of the ones that comes to my mind right away, of course, is James Hillman, who have pointed out that this paradigm, we have to remember that this paradigm can become like a fundamentalist monotheistic religion. My childhood made me who I am. Another way of looking at it, for example, a slightly different paradigm is that your childhood is also the prerequisite in some way for your destiny. That it's about finding creative ways of harnessing that raw material and using it creatively in your destiny path. And both could be true, right? But the point is that one of the subtle things that can come in, and it's very Capricornian, and most people don't even think about it this way, is that we can start to feel like my primary responsibility is to heal my past, to heal my history, to heal my family, to make up for or correct or salvage all of the bad, broken things in my past. This is a radical idea because that work is valuable and there's nothing wrong with that work. However, it's also important to recognize that that work is archetypal. And because it's archetypal, it's eternal. And because it's eternal, that means that there is no end to it. I had this taught to me when I was in the Bhakti Yoga world, and I read a lot about karma, and it was like this. Because karma is described as anadi, which means without beginning, trying to enlighten and let's say transcend or develop a light body, whatever you want to call it. If you try to get there by going into the past and trying to endlessly clear karma from the past, you'll never get there because there is no beginning to karma, and hence there is no end to going back in time and trying to clear it. There's something it's almost like like if you have like well, I'm thinking, okay, my daughter in the winter, she gets chapped lips and she starts licking them, and we're like, don't lick, and then it gets red around, we put chapstick on it, don't lick, but it's so hard for her not to lick. Well, in some ways, us continuing to try to go into the past to make the present better it's a never-ending mountain you're climbing. It's a never-ending hole you're trying to clear while the sand keeps coming in. And so that work is valuable for the gems and beautiful things we can discover. But if we also don't know how to step away from feeling responsible for the past, or feeling like if I don't clear the past, then I can't go forward, we're going to get stuck. And so one of the things that's very Capricornian is this feeling of like, endless responsibility for, you know, somehow being better now than we were in the past. And so and that's the same reason, that same thing that propels us to become better at an instrument. Well, I want to get better than I was 2 weeks ago. So it has this beautiful function. And we go back in time and we do healing work, we do ancestral healing work, and it's all beautiful. And there's a never ending amount of ancestral work in an eternal cosmos that has no beginning and end, in a manifest reality that includes darkness, includes it. So we have to be careful that we know that we can't justify who we are by trying to get endlessly better than we were in some past state, because the past states will themselves be recurring, right? Endlessly. So when I learned about this through the way that various Indian texts look at karma and so forth, it was really relieving, because what I understood was that doing childhood work in therapy is therapeutic and beneficial. However, it is not the only paradigm, nor is there some end to that work that I have to get to, right? It's like an available activity for therapeutic healing benefit, but there are other activities that don't look exactly the same, or don't share the same paradigm. And there may be some way in which I could endlessly go into the past. And at some point, I have to say, I can't be responsible for everything that's happened in the past. I can't try to figure it out, sort it out, heal it all out, iron it all out, and so forth. So we might be able to let some of that go if we have a tendency to do that so relentlessly, that we're burdened by it. It's like a cross we're carrying endlessly. All right, number 5 is overworking. Hey, this is a simple one. There's a way in which Pluto and Capricorn will illustrate to us that we just overwork on anything and everything, even the good things. We just overwork. What good is work if we don't have some kind of tension of the opposites, work and play, structure and spontaneity? Well, if we work so much, but we don't play, the working doesn't really mean anything. And so we have to learn how to hold the tension of opposites always with astrology. Overworking versus nurturance, care, softness, sweetness, tenderness. Or you could even look at it as just seriousness versus playfulness. It doesn't mean anything if we're working so much and doing all these noble things, and we're a symptom of somebody, right, in my opinion, who is not in touch with the soul, is somebody who is too serious. And they think there's no other way to look at things than seriously. And if you're not, then you're childish. If you're not, then you're not aware enough of the problems of the world. If you can't sit back and relax and set those troubles aside for a minute, well, then you're the wrong kind of person. Poppycock. Is that a word? I think it is. You're fine. You don't have to work all the time. Life is also just breezes in the garden. You know what I mean? And we have to hold the tension between opposites. Work doesn't mean anything if we don't know what play is like. If you take everything so seriously that you can't laugh, even at the darkest, most absurd things, you know what? If you don't let laughter in at the front door, the devil comes in at the back. You know what I mean? You gotta be able to not take shit so seriously. Doesn't mean that there's not a time and place to take things seriously. It means you don't have to take them seriously all the time. Okay. So overworking, over seriousness. Let's just let it go. All right. These are fun ideas presented to you on your exit from Pluto and Capricorn University. I hope that they resonate. I hope that you were able to find at least one of them that, maybe strikes a chord in your heart. And I hope you're having a good day. We'll see you again tomorrow. Bye.